Broke college student returned a lost wallet. The owner's reaction left her speechless. Maya Chen had exactly $11.37 to her name when she found the wallet. It was tucked beneath a park bench on the edge of campus, half hidden by fallen leaves that had gathered there like whispered secrets. November had painted everything in shades of amber and rust, and Maya had been walking through Riverside Park because it was free, because it was quiet, and because her dorm room felt too small to hold all the weight she was carrying. She almost didn't see it. She'd been staring at the ground anyway, the way she did most days now, watching her worn sneakers navigate the cracked pathway. But something caught the late afternoon light, a glint of silver from a money clip peeking out from weathered leather. Maya stopped, looked around. The park was nearly empty, just a few joggers in the distance, an older woman feeding pigeons near the fountain. No one searching, no one calling out. She bent down and picked it up. The wallet was expensive, she could tell that much. Soft leather, the kind that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Inside she found credit cards, a driver's license, and cash. A lot of cash. Maya counted it twice because her hands were shaking. $800, $800, that was her rent. That was groceries for 2 months. That was the textbooks she'd been photocopying pages from in the library because she couldn't afford to buy them. That was the phone bill she'd let lapse, the reason her mother couldn't reach her anymore. Maya sat down on the bench, the wallet heavy in her lap, and tried to remember the last time she'd eaten something that wasn't ramen or the free bread from the campus food pantry. She was 20 years old. She was 3 semesters into a nursing degree she'd chosen because she wanted to help people, because her grandmother had been a nurse, because it felt like the kind of life that meant something. But her grandmother was gone now, and the scholarship that had seemed like a lifeline had only covered tuition, not living, not existing, not all the small ways that being poor made everything harder. No one told you that about college. No one mentioned that you could be surrounded by thousands of people and still feel so completely, devastatingly alone. Maya looked at the driver's license. Eleanor Whitmore, 68 years old, according to the birth date. An address in the wealthy part of town, the kind of neighborhood Maya only saw from the bus window. She could keep it. No one would know. Eleanor Whitmore probably wouldn't even miss it. Rich people never did, not really. It would just be an inconvenience, a few calls to cancel cards, a trip to the DMV. Nothing like what it meant to Maya, but her grandmother's voice was there, somewhere in the back of her mind, steady as a heartbeat. Who you are when no one's watching is who you really are. Maya closed in her eyes, let out a long breath that turned to mist in the cold air. Then she stood up and started walking toward the address on the license. The house wasn't a house. It was an estate, red brick covered in climbing ivy, windows that gleamed in the fading light, a garden that even in November managed to look like something from a magazine. Maya stood at the iron gate for a full minute, trying to work up the courage to press the intercom button. When she finally did, a voice crackled through, soft, a little tired. Yes? Hi, I'm sorry to bother you. I found a wallet in Riverside Park. The license says Eleanor Whitmore, and this is the address, so I wanted to return it. A pause, long enough that Maya wondered if the intercom had broken. Then, oh my goodness, please come in. The gate buzzed open. Eleanor Whitmore met her at the front door, and she wasn't what Maya had expected. She'd imagined someone polished and distant, the way wealthy people in movies always were. But Eleanor had silver hair escaping from a messy bun, reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, and a cardigan that had definitely seen better days. Her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying. You found it, Eleanor said, and her voice cracked on the words. You actually found it. Maya held out the wallet. Everything's still there. I counted it to see if there was identification, but I didn't take anything. Eleanor didn't reach for it. Instead, she looked at Maya, really looked at her, in a way that made Maya want to take a step back. You walked all the way here, in this cold? It wasn't far. It's 2 miles. I don't have a car. Maya shrugged, suddenly aware of how she must look. The coat that was too thin for the weather. The shoes that were more duct tape than leather at this point. But it's fine. I wanted to make sure you got it back. Eleanor took the wallet then, but she didn't open it. She held it against her chest like it was something precious. This wallet, she said quietly, belonged to my husband. He passed away 6 months ago. I've been carrying it everywhere since then, like some kind of, talisman, comfort. And I was sitting in the park today because that's where we had our first date, 50 years ago next week, and I must have set it down and forgotten, and her voice broke completely. Maya didn't think. She just moved forward and wrapped her arms around this stranger, this woman she'd never met, Because that's what you did when someone was drowning and you knew what drowning felt like. Eleanor held on like Maya was the only solid thing in the world. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." When they finally pulled apart, Eleanor wiped her eyes and seemed to really see Maya for the first time. "You're a student?" "At the university, yes, ma'am." "And you walked 2 miles in November to return a wallet to a stranger." "It was the right thing to do." Eleanor studied her for a long moment. Then she said, "When's the last time you had a proper meal?" Maya opened her mouth to say she was fine, that she should go, that she didn't need anything. But Eleanor was already steering her inside, through a foyer that smelled like old books and lavender, into a kitchen, warm with afternoon light. "Sit," Eleanor said, pointing to a chair at a wooden table that had clearly hosted decades of family dinners. "I'm going to make us tea, and you're going to tell me about yourself, and I won't hear a single argument about it." Maya sat. She didn't know what else to do. Over tea and then sandwiches and then cookies that Eleanor insisted she'd made too many of anyway. The story came out. Not all of it. Maya had never told anyone all of it, but enough. The scholarship that didn't stretch far enough, the job she couldn't keep because her class schedule was too demanding, the grandmother who'd raised her, gone now 2 years, and the way losing her had felt like losing the only person who'd ever really believed in Maya. Eleanor listened without interrupting. When Maya finished, she set down her teacup with a decisive clink. "I have a proposition," she said, "and before you say no, I want you to hear me out. Mrs. Whitmore, Eleanor, and I'm serious. I have this enormous house that echoes. I have more rooms than I know what to do with. My husband used to say I was the loneliest woman in the world if I wasn't taking care of someone, and he was right." She reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "I need someone to help me around here. Light cleaning, some cooking, maybe reading to me in the evenings because my eyes aren't what they used to be. And in exchange, you'd have a room here, meals, a stipend for your books, a quiet place to study." Maya felt her eyes burning. "You don't even know me. I know you walked 2 miles in the cold to return a wallet you could have kept. I know you held a crying stranger in your arms when you didn't have to." Eleanor squeezed her hand. "I know enough. I can't just—" "You can. You showed me kindness when the world has given you every reason not to. Let me show you some in return." Maya wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons it was too much, too generous, too good to be true, but she was so tired of being strong, so tired of doing everything alone. "Okay," she whispered. Eleanor smiled, really smiled, for the first time since Maya had met her. "Okay." 3 years later, Maya stood in the same kitchen, morning light streaming through the windows, a nursing diploma in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. Eleanor was at the table, older now, moving a little slower, but with eyes that still sparkled when she looked at the woman Maya had become. "I'm so proud of you," Eleanor said, her voice thick with emotion. "He would have been proud of you too." Maya set down the diploma and bent to hug her. "I couldn't have done any of it without you." "That's not true. You were always going to fly. I just—" Eleanor pulled back, cupping Maya's face in her weathered hands. "I just got to watch." The doorbell rang. The caterers arriving for the small graduation party they were throwing. Friends from Maya's program, a few neighbors who'd become family, Eleanor's son who'd initially been suspicious but had slowly come to love Maya like a sister. Maya moved to answer it, then paused at the doorway. "Eleanor?" "Yes, dear?" "I never asked you, that day in the park when you lost the wallet. What were you thinking about before I found you?" Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I was thinking about how strange grief is, how it empties you out until you forget you were ever full, and I was wondering if I'd ever feel anything again." She met Maya's eyes across the kitchen. "And then a girl appeared at my door, and she reminded me that the world is still full of goodness, that kindness still exists, that even when you think you're alone, you never really are." Maya crossed back to her and kissed her forehead. "I should return a lost wallet to a stranger more often." Eleanor laughed, that warm, full laugh that had become one of Maya's favorite sounds. "Just once was enough, my dear. Just once was more than enough." That evening, after the party wound down and the guests had gone home, Maya walked to Riverside Park. The bench was still there, weathered but solid, surrounded by the same amber leaves that had hidden an old leather wallet 3 years ago. She sat down, breathed in the cold air, watched the last light fade from the sky. An older woman settled onto the bench beside her, Eleanor wrapped in a coat that Maya had bought her last Christmas, the one with the fur-lined hood that made her look like a character from a Russian novel. "Room for one more?" she asked. Maya smiled. "Always." They sat together in comfortable silence, Two people who had found each other through a simple act of honesty, a moment of kindness, a choice that had changed both of their lives. "You know what I think?" Eleanor said eventually, her voice soft in the gathering dusk. "What's that?" "I think sometimes the universe puts exactly what we need in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. And I think the only thing we have to do is be brave enough to pick it up." Maya leaned her head on Eleanor's shoulder, thought about $11.37, thought about walking 2 miles in the cold, thought about all the ways her life could have gone differently if she'd made a different choice. "I think," Maya said, "the best things we find are the things we weren't looking for." Eleanor took her hand. "Welcome to the family, my dear. Welcome home." And the park settled into stillness around them, holding them gently, the way good stories hold their endings, soft and sure and full of quiet light.